Though she is a black girl, she is naturally beautiful. At 17, she is full of longing for love, and Janie, a boy from the same village and close to her in age, is her childhood sweetheart. But while the two are on a sweet little date, her grandmother sees them while working. Grandmother loudly calls Janie home. In truth, she does not want her granddaughter seeing that poor boy. In a fit of anger, she even says many crude things. Janie never imagines that before she has even finished school, her grandmother will already be arranging her marriage. She thinks her grandmother has agreed to let her marry Johnny. Little does she know, her grandmother wants to marry her off to a tenant farmer from the neighboring village, because that man owns 60 acres of land and has a farm of his own. If her granddaughter marries him, she certainly will not suffer. But this kind of decision made without her consent is rejected outright by Janie. With no other choice, her grandmother becomes emotional and slaps her across the face. Then she tightly holds her granddaughter in her arms. Ever since Janie's parents died, whenever her grandmother decides something is right, she makes the decision for her. Janie also knows that all of this is for her own good, but why should her own life be left for others to control? At this moment, she looks up toward heaven, her heart filled with endless sorrow. She does not know where fate will take her from here. The next day, her grandmother waits with her at the village entrance for the tenant farmer to come pick her up, and she gives her many instructions about life in her husband's home. Just then, the man arrives on time in a horse-drawn wagon, but what the girl never expects is that he is actually an old man well past 70, just as her grandmother hoped. Janie marries this man who is 40 years older than she is. Although Logan is kind and considerate, and truly does own plenty of good farmland in the area, Janie still waits for the love she once dreamed of, because at Logan's age, aside from material comfort, he cannot really give her anything physically. Though they share the same bed, it is difficult for them to fulfill the duties of husband and wife. Life passes day after day like this, without meaning or romance, and Janie can only look for small unexpected pleasures inside her work. That is all. One day, her husband needs to go into town to buy a plow for the busy farming season ahead. Janie wants to go with him, but the old man tells her to stay home, do more farm work, and stop letting her mind wander all day. When he got home, he was hoping to have a hot meal. This clearly limits Janie's freedom to go out. Her husband's traditional way of thinking quietly locks a young girl not yet 20 into invisible chains. But what can she possibly do about it? So she busies herself in the pig pen again. She originally wants to catch a piglet and prepare dinner for her husband, but the little creatures are simply too adorable. Janie cannot bring herself to hurt them, so while her husband is away, she actually lets all the piglets go. And this lively scene happens to be noticed by a passerby. Seeing her waste the family's livestock like this, the man wants to catch the piglets back, but Janie sharply scolds him away. When Janie turns back, her slightly dirty face happens to meet the man's spotless white handkerchief. And when he says, "A lady as beautiful as you deserves to be cared for every single day," how could the girl's heart not be stirred? In fact, the man before her is named Joe. He is a businessman from Georgia. He plans to keep going straight down this road, because a new black town has been built there, and in that era, that sounds almost like a fantasy. When Janie doubts what he is saying, Joe actually invites her to come with him and see it with her own eyes. The girl desperately wants to escape this dull life, but she is still someone else's wife. So after a brief moment of thought, she firmly refuses his invitation. But faced with such a beautiful girl, Joe does not close the door completely. He tells Janie that if she changes her mind, she can wait for him on this road tomorrow morning. That night, the girl stares at the handkerchief and becomes restless with thought. She cautiously asks her husband, who is still awake beside her, if she were to leave one day, what would he do alone? There are tears in her husband's eyes. It seems he can also tell that Janie cannot be kept. Sure enough, early the next morning, Janie leaves. Compared with her husband's 60 acres of land, she would rather see her life truly change. So, just as Joe said yesterday, Janie comes to the road and waits for him. Everything unfolds naturally. Joe does not break yesterday's promise either, and arrives on time in a wagon to pick her up. Janie once thought she would spend her whole life farming, but the arrival of spring fills everything with life. Joe buys her many beautiful clothes, and it also signals that she has already become Mrs. Joe. Soon, the two arrive at the newly built black town, but the place seems completely different from what she imagined. People sit around idly by the roadside, and it is hardly different from the open wilderness. Perhaps that has a great deal to do with the fact that the town has only existed for a year. However, the moment Janie opens her mouth to speak, her beautiful face quickly draws everyone's attention. The townspeople warmly invite the couple into their homes for a meal. but Joe directly refuses, because in his eyes, these men are only being polite because his wife is pretty. Otherwise, why would they be so courteous to strangers? After asking around, Joe soon learns the truth. It turns out this tiny plot of land was donated to everyone by a man named Captain Eaton. It is nowhere near large enough to be called a town, but getting more land clearly seems impossible. So, using his businessman's mind, Joe decides to buy more land with money. Meanwhile, the others gossip outside, afraid that something may go wrong in the middle of it all. But in fact, there is almost no problem money cannot solve. Joe smiles at his wife waiting outside the window, and that signals that this land has officially become theirs. In the days that follow, once everyone has land of their own, they work with special energy, and Joe becomes the first mayor of the Black Town. Perhaps some people only reveal their true power after they take office, but in Janie's eyes, Joe is different. He can do that at any time. As time passes, the couple opens a store of their own in town. They become the model couple in other people's eyes, and everyone else enjoys the good life too. But this beautiful life is soon broken, because her husband often buys Janie elegant dresses. That makes the mayor's wife the object of other people's envy. Naturally, it also draws gossip from the other women, and this is only the beginning of the whole trouble. That night, Joe holds a celebration for the town's legal recognition. All the black residents gather together, happy and harmonious, but there are always some people who enjoy watching a scene. Among them, Amos below the stage deliberately starts stirring things up. He says in public that the mayor's wife should also say a few words. Janie likes this atmosphere very much and wants to share her feelings with everyone, but the moment she opens her mouth, her husband beside her stops her. Hearing her husband speak about her this way, Janie inevitably feels a little hurt. Although the celebration continues with the same lively energy, Janie suddenly feels strangely tired. The next morning, a group of people are playing chess and chatting outside the store, and the sound of Janie laughing loudly with others makes her husband inside feel deeply uncomfortable, because his wife's beauty is second to none in the area, and besides, the men gathered outside are all unmarried young fellows. That naturally makes Joe uneasy. At the same time, Amos's hand quietly reaches up to touch his wife's hair. Furious, Joe walks outside and orders his wife to stay away from these people immediately. Janie seems to realize that her husband is angry with her. She explains that she only wants to be closer with the neighbors, but Joe refuses to let it go. He even closes the store in broad daylight, and that is exactly the spectacle everyone wanted to see. Then, to make his wife hide her beauty, her husband directly takes out a white headscarf. He wants Janie to wrap her head like an old woman, but she has only just turned 20. Must she really give up her youth just to protect the mayor's dignity? So Janie truly cannot tolerate her husband's demand. She forcefully throws down the headscarf, opens the door, and runs outside. Then she goes straight back to her room, packs her bags, and prepares to leave this home. No matter how her husband tries to stop her, it seems useless now. But if she leaves this hard-won home, where can she go? Joe has a point. Just like when she left her former husband, she escaped the shackles of one life, full of hope for the next happiness waiting ahead. But does she really want to walk the same old road all over again? Thinking of this, Janie ultimately gives up on leaving. She compromises for the sake of her husband's image, and in order to have a stable family, she sacrifices her youth. Looking at the group of neighbors watching the drama by the roadside, one wonders what Joe, as mayor, must be thinking. Reality defeats the romantic ideals of youth. Janie puts away the jewelry she wears, and can only tie the scarf around her head. She becomes a housewife, suppressing the wild heart inside her. Life repeats day after day. Breakfast in the morning, lunch at noon, dinner before 6. Every day the same. Just like that, 20 years pass. By now, the Black Town is no longer what it once was. Janie also lives a comfortable life, but only because it suits her husband. Inside, she has actually remained suppressed all along. Then one day, every unchanging rule is about to be broken. As her husband grows older, and with his daily irritable temper, he naturally begins to struggle at work. His wife wants to step forward and help, but the tobacco Janie cuts for the customer is honestly rather poor. This makes her husband insult her in front of outsiders without caring about her feelings at all. That slap completely shatters every last illusion Janie still has. Even the neighbors watching nearby cannot believe when Joe became so volatile. After that, to escape her husband's cold treatment, Janie temporarily moves into a friend's home. Even her friend kindly reminds Janie, Joe has already given her plenty. She always thinks she is unhappy, but perhaps that is only because she does not know how to be satisfied. In truth, Joe has indeed treated her fairly well. Perhaps the two of them are simply too different in temperament. After all, they are about 20 years apart. It is inevitable that they would have huge disagreements in some areas. And yet life is unpredictable. One day, the town doctor drives to the house. Clearly, her husband is sick. So after many days away, Janie steps once more into that familiar place. But the answer she receives is heartbreaking. Because Joe has a terminal illness, the doctor tells him that he does not have much time left. Perhaps in such a difficult moment, husband and wife should have made peace with the past, but both of them still cling stubbornly to their own positions. Janie admits that she has not been a good wife, but Joe believes he has already given her every dream a woman could want. Across these 20 years, though life has held both joy and sorrow and the two have weathered many storms, in the end, her husband has never truly understood Janie, just like when he first ran away with her. Back then, Janie was lively, cheerful, and bold, but now, under Joe's shadow, she has become a completely different person. Originally, her husband might have lived a few more days, but unexpectedly, the emotions he cannot suppress make Joe close his eyes for good. He ends his life in pain and without release. No matter what people thought of Joe while he was alive, everyone still attends her husband's funeral. They cry for him and mourn him, because Joe did bring them a home. He founded the first all-black town in America. No one can replace the contribution he made. Janie is saddened too, but alongside that sadness, there is also an indescribable feeling in her heart. Perhaps at this moment, she is truly free. With her husband gone, Janie finally removes the headscarf for herself. A new day is about to arrive. Everything will change with it. Then she goes into the clear river water and washes away the dust clinging to her body. Like the carefree girl she was at 17, she looks up toward heaven and waits for the future, feeling the new world with all her heart. In the blink of an eye, another year passes. Janie loves this feeling of freedom far too much. Her friend even asks why she does not feel sad for her dead husband. The woman answers directly that she simply does not care what other people think. Indeed, everything is over, and a new romance is about to arrive. A widowed woman can only resist loneliness for so long. When a young customer comes into the store, that lively youthful energy immediately sets the working woman's heart fluttering, because her former husband has already been dead for more than a year. So Janie very much hopes that a man can bring her a new feeling. An 18-year-old tea cake is clearly the perfect choice. As they trade playful remarks, the two try to play checkers outside the store, but with one careless move, the woman embarrassingly falls to the ground. Tea cake beside her is quick to read the moment. After helping Janie up, he bends down again to pick up the scattered game pieces, but the uninhibited pair of legs before him, and the woman's relaxed manner, make Tea Cake instinctively pat them twice, and that tiny bit of contact seems to strike the lonely strings in Janie's heart. She and Tea Cake agree on a chance to meet again. The boy still reluctantly walks her all the way back to her door. Before leaving, Tea Cake deliberately catches Janie's arm and says goodnight with deep feeling. Every hint flows quietly between them. Those eyes are deep, and honest too, as if signaling that Janie is about to welcome her third love. In fact, ever since the woman's husband died, a man in town named Amos has always hoped Janie would marry him, even in front of the neighbors. He never hides the fact that he talks about it. Early the next morning, Janie is like a little girl who has lost her soul, searching for something at the doorway. When she sees Tea Cake coming from afar, she pretends to bite into a red apple while secretly letting a smile show. But Tea Cake does not walk toward Janie. Instead, he first goes to greet the neighbors outside the store. When a woman even takes the initiative to hand the boy a soda, Janie seems deeply displeased. One meaningless surface detail is enough to touch the angry jealousy inside her heart. But Tea Cake still cares about her. He calls from a distance, inviting her over to play checkers. Janie immediately puts away her gloomy expression and becomes all smiles. Amos earnestly teaches Janie how to play. Unfortunately, the woman's thoughts are nowhere near him. Even the soda Tea Cake has just set down, Janie picks up and drinks in one go without caring at all what others think. And at this point, everyone finally understands what is really happening between them. When night falls, Tea Cake deliberately comes to the store to wait for Janie. The clerk beside her is even afraid the boss may be in danger and kindly offers to walk her home. Little does she know, the two people have already fallen for each other. That worry seems a little unnecessary. On the nights that follow, they talk sweetly like a young couple in love. Seeing an unripe lemon by the roadside, Tea Cake picks it, then he keeps teasing it near Janie's lips. How could that sharp, sour feeling not move this widow's heart? Everything is heading toward a beautiful night. They dance happily inside the room and lose themselves in learning the piano together. The two people, still untouched, are like dry wood meeting a spark. Ignition takes only an instant, but at that moment, Janie inexplicably refuses. After her body cools down, she opens the door for tea cake. Perhaps it is because of the age gap between them, or perhaps his sweet talk comes too smoothly. It makes Janie doubt that this could become a lasting love. Even though tea cake tells her his feelings and makes solemn promises, Janie still has concerns deep inside, and seeing the boy angrily slam the door and leave makes her feel that her words may have been too harsh. By the time she wants to keep a sliver of hope alive, tea cake has already vanished into the endless night. Could this really be the end for them? Janie's conflict makes it hard for her to sleep that night, but in truth, she is worrying for nothing. Early the next morning, tea cake knocks on Janie's door. The boy sincerely apologizes for how he acted yesterday. That truly catches Janie off guard. Just a touch of romantic thoughtfulness is enough to completely win Janie over. She immediately pulls the boy inside to eat breakfast. Unfortunately, tea cake still has to go to work. After warmly saying goodbye to Janie, he leaves first, but after this small emotional bump, the time they spend together only grows longer and longer. Tea cake even wins a little car by playing cards. He drives Janie to the river for a picnic in full view of everyone, looking effortlessly stylish. In the days that follow, the two become inseparable lovers. Whenever neighbors ask the clerk where Janie has gone, the woman can no longer be bothered with store business. Whenever she passes by the roadside, Janie's laughter never stops. Besides being full of jealousy, people are even more worried for this widow. Among them, one close friend advises her, those unrealistic new experiences may already have made Janie lose her judgment, especially with the savings left by her late husband. Now she spends money freely on clothes and luxury goods, and even plans to run away with that boy. Does she not think at all about life in the future? But Janie can no longer listen to her friend's advice. She says that tea cake helped her find herself again, before she grows old and faded. Why not enjoy this happy time? Sure enough, after leaving the store to the clerk, Janie puts on a beautiful dress and runs away with tea cake. They dance with abandon in a ballroom they pass along the way. Then, in the small hotel where they stay, they truly feel each other. That night, Janie gives everything she has to him, and yet things are not as beautiful as she imagined. When Janie wakes from sleep the next day, tea cake is nowhere beside her. She opens the window and tries to call tea cake's name, but the boy has long since disappeared somewhere unknown, and what worries her even more is that the money in her wallet is gone too. This clearly has something to do with her boyfriend. Janie feels that she has been deceived. Looking at herself in the mirror, she suddenly remembers the warning her friend once gave her. Just as the woman is at a loss over what to do, tea cake actually comes back drunk. Janie quickly asks where the money went, but the answer leaves her deeply disappointed. Tea cake has gambled away every last cent, and on top of that, he has lost a car too. Janie finally sees his true face. She originally wants to pack her things and leave at once, yet just as she is about to step out the door, tea cake lets out a painful cry, and Janie willingly turns back again. It turns out the injury on her boyfriend's arm was something he deliberately did to himself. He simply did not want Janie to look down on him as ordinary and think he would drag down their future together. Faced with the loss of material things, and seeing tea cake's sincere heart, Janie, blinded by love, still refuses to come to her senses. In the end, Janie chooses to forgive him. Perhaps she truly loves this boy deeply, so deeply that she believes the feelings between them matter more than anything else. So they set aside the unhappiness from moments ago and lie in bed imagining the future. Janie tells her boyfriend that she still has plenty of money in the bank. Their future life can be completely free from worry. But tea cake has a more romantic plan. He takes Janie to a beautiful place in the countryside. He wants to find work through his own effort, and live that peaceful pastoral life untouched by the world. And this is exactly the kind of life Janie has always longed for. So the two happily arrive in this newly built town. Everything is exactly as they expected, though the place is made up of many different groups. Everyone seems to enjoy being there. Janie has only just arrived, yet she already falls in love with the place. During the day, she goes with her boyfriend to work in the fields. Though it is tiring, and though dirt gets on them, the two never complain about each other. At night, everyone gathers together, enjoying all kinds of delicious food, singing and dancing in relaxed happiness, truly feeling the love tea cake has brought into her life. But peaceful days often brew a storm. Many Native Americans prepare to move to higher ground. Tea cake goes over in confusion to ask why. Who would have thought they would say a hurricane is coming? Many black people who have lived there for years do not take it seriously, because since moving there, they have never once seen a real hurricane. Even the white employer at the fields doubts the Native Americans' judgment. But in truth, The weather does not always obey human wishes. Soon, dark clouds cover the sky, and the wind gradually begins to rise. Seeing that things are not right, some black residents also begin leaving one after another. Some neighbors even kindly remind the couple, for safety's sake, they should move quickly, but Tea Cake does not think that far ahead. He is afraid that if they leave, he will not be paid for the last 2 days of work, so he decisively refuses the neighbor's kindness. Perhaps this is what people mean when they say men die for wealth and birds die for food. Watching the dark clouds gathering thicker and thicker over the lake, Tea Cake does feel somewhat worried, but Janie has no intention of leaving either. She even encourages her boyfriend, saying they will be safe if they stay at home. But can everything really go the way people hope? Sure enough, that night, the raging wind and rain come crashing in like a tiger, far worse than they imagined. When a branch struck down by lightning smashes onto the roof, Janie seems to grow frightened too, but what they do not know is that some low-lying houses have already been submerged. Fortunately, Tea Cake's house stands on higher ground. Only a small amount of water rushes inside, and all the couple can do is comfort each other, praying that they can safely make it through this unforgettable night. Even with floodwaters raging outside, the two still cast aside all fear and continue pouring out their vows of love. But once the embankment along the shore is breached by the flood, every beautiful illusion is about to vanish. Janie struggles desperately in the water, shouting Tea Cake's name at the top of her lungs. When she gets no answer, she dives beneath the surface and feels around blindly. Then, by the faint light of lightning alone, she sees the shape of a drowning person. She reaches out, trying to pull him up, but the dead man before her does not seem to be Tea Cake. That gives Janie a real fright, so she swims back to the surface again, shouting loudly as she moves toward the roof. But to her shock, just as she finds a place to brace herself, 2 vicious dogs rush at her with snapping jaws. To avoid them, Janie has no choice but to dive beneath the water again. At this critical moment, Tea Cake ambushes one of the dogs with a knife, but unfortunately, the other one bites his arm. Then both fall into the water together. By the time Janie stubbornly climbs onto the roof, there is no sign of her boyfriend. Just when the woman begins to despair, Tea Cake suddenly breaks the surface of the water. Then Janie uses every bit of strength in her body to drag her boyfriend onto the roof. After that, she bandages the arm bitten by the dog. As the wind and rain gradually fade, the spreading floodwaters still surround the house. Like an isolated island, the 2 survivors continue fighting stubbornly to stay alive. Only after a week does the water slowly recede. The nearby river returns once again to its former calm, just as it was when Janie first arrived there, and the people who fled begin moving back one after another, hoping their damaged homes can be restored to what they were. Tea Cake, after being bitten, begins recovering at home. Janie wants to bring him some clean water, but ever since the last disaster, her boyfriend's behavior has begun to turn abnormal. Even though the water has been brought in clean from elsewhere, he finds it disgusting and cannot swallow it. On the 7th day after Tea Cake was bitten by the dog, Janie has no choice but to call a doctor for help. The doctor comforts the patient while reminding him not to share a bed with his girlfriend for the time being. This is both a delaying tactic and the helplessness of facing the illness. After finishing the diagnosis, he calls Janie outside. Clearly, the situation is not hopeful. He warns the woman that it would be best to tie the patient down for treatment. Janie is somewhat astonished. She says she has plenty of money, no matter the cost. She will do everything she can. But in truth, Tea Cake is already close to the end. The doctor leaves decisively, making Janie appear even more helpless. And yet, seeing Tea Cake in such pain, all the woman can do is comfort him with a breaking heart. Then the two hold each other and look back on all the little moments of their past. This seems to foreshadow that an unpredictable tragedy is about to come. At night, Tea Cake suddenly wakes from sleep. While helping him, Janie discovers a pistol beneath the pillow. That immediately makes her realize something. So early the next morning, the woman gives some money to a nearby fisherman and asks him to hurry and fetch the doctor. However, Tea Cake happens to see the scene. He seems very unhappy about the conversation between them. Then, while her boyfriend goes to the toilet, Janie seizes the moment and quietly goes inside. She takes the gun out from beneath the pillow. Then, in a fluster, removes the bullets from inside, because she does not know what reckless thing her boyfriend, robbed of reason by illness, may do next. Seeing that Tea Cake is about to come back, the frantic Janie has no time to remove the last bullet before hurriedly putting the gun back under the pillow. She is terrified that he will notice what she has done, but Tea Cake has already reached a state of madness. He begins questioning Janie about why she no longer sleeps beside him. So, To comply with her boyfriend's wishes, Janie has no choice but to lie down in bed with him. At the same time, she notices that a hunting rifle is also sitting in front of her. As time passes, the two lie together like that. Suddenly, the sound of a car horn outside makes Janie think the doctor has arrived. But unexpectedly, it is only a passing car. The woman seems somewhat disappointed. Little does she know, the white doctor from last time is never going to risk returning here again. But what surprises Janie even more is that her boyfriend has quietly hidden behind her. Then he slams the door shut. He even asks whether Janie is trying to run away with that fisherman, and the pistol at Tea Cake's waist leaves the woman at a loss for a moment. Sure enough, after losing his reason, her boyfriend shoves Janie down onto the bed and immediately points the gun at her. He demands to know whether his girlfriend is going to betray him. The situation deteriorates in an instant. Tea Cake pulls the trigger without hesitation. Luckily, Janie had already removed most of the bullets before, but one still remains inside. Now it is still extremely dangerous. At this moment, Janie also raises the hunting rifle, repeatedly urging Tea Cake to come back to his senses, but the man's illness has already taken hold. No matter how the woman tries to awaken his memory, Tea Cake can no longer do it. The Janie before his eyes has become a phantom shadow. Even if he knows that everything she says is for his own good, he can no longer control his actions. Tea Cake raises the pistol again, turning every beautiful experience they shared into memories too painful to release. With no other choice, Janie shoots and kills him. That heartrending cry, that devastating helplessness, means that from this moment on, she has forever lost the love of her life. A week passes. Having lost everything, Janie walks back to Eatonville on foot. This is the black town founded by her second husband, and also the home where she lived for more than 20 years. People are still idling leisurely outside the store, when Miss Janie suddenly appears in such a miserable state. No one shows sympathy or pity. It seems they had long expected this day would come. Some women come forward with fake concern. Others make sarcastic remarks without hiding it at all. But not everyone enjoys watching a spectacle. Janie also has one sincere friend. She is the one who covered all the furniture in the house so it would not be coated with dust. A true friend is someone who offers warmth in a snowstorm and becomes the person who truly understands her. But even she cannot understand, knowing full well that Tea Cake was only a swindler who took advantage of her weakness. Why did Janie still run away with him back then? After saying what is in her heart, Janie leans against her friend. She tells the entire story from beginning to end. And with that, the whole film has also been told. It is worth mentioning that the novel Their Eyes Were Watching God was written in 1937 by African-American author Zora Neale Hurston. It is regarded as a classic of the Harlem Renaissance. With delicate writing, the author portrays the growth of the black woman Janie. Through Janie's 3 marriages, we see a woman's relentless pursuit of self-worth and freely chosen love. Janie's first marriage is arranged for her. Inside that relationship, she is only someone who obeys, with no happiness to speak of. This brings to mind many traditional women, trapped in the helplessness and repression of old marriage models. They are bound by the expectations of family and society, losing the right to express themselves. And Janie bravely chooses to run away with Joe. That is the first step of her resistance. Although Joe is not an ideal partner either, his male chauvinism still restricts Janie. But within this marriage, Janie gradually awakens. She begins to realize that she should not exist merely as an accessory to a man. Only when she is with Tea Cake does she truly taste equality and love. They work together and enjoy life together. And within this relationship, Janie finally shines in her own light. Yet fate is cruel. Tea Cake's accidental death deals Janie a devastating blow. But by then, Janie is no longer the naive girl she once was. She has lived through pain and growth, becoming strong and independent. This novel makes people deeply understand that neither race nor gender should become chains limiting one's pursuit of freedom and happiness. Janie keeps exploring and resisting through hardship, and finally finds herself. Her story inspires every reader, especially women readers, to bravely pursue the sky that belongs to their own hearts. Do not let outside pressure or traditional beliefs imprison you. Use your own strength to write a brilliant life that belongs to you. Alright, I am a movie lover. Watch more overlooked films and series. We will continue next time.